It's the ESCtips.com Eurovision Preview Podcast. Join us as we sort this year's contenders from the duds.
Attention, you are now entering a fanboy-free zone.
Hello and welcome to the first of 3 Eurovision 2017 preview podcasts from ESCtips.com. My name is Gavin, otherwise known as Gavster on ESCtips and Twitter. Today we'll be discussing the first of this year's semi-finals with 2 popular returning guests. First up, please welcome serial blogger and podcaster and co-owner of ESC Insight, Scotland's own Ewan Spence. How's things in Euroland for you?
I'm doing very well, Gavin. As you know, you taught me a little bit of the ins and outs of trying to do betting, and I've made one tiny bet this year on Eurovision.
Okay. Is that something you want to tell us now or save till the end of the show?
Well, it was Italy at 29-1. Is that any good?
Good bet. Solid bet. And you can now sell that off. So.
I could, but I've got a sneaky feeling I'm going to keep a hold of that one.
I think you should. I'll buy it off you, though.
Strangely enough, you're not the first to do that, but you haven't taught me that lesson yet. So that's going to have to be... The trading it away will have to wait for next year.
Okay, and second up tonight is writer, broadcaster, and ESC apocalypse blogger. It's Mr. Roy Delaney. What's going on in your Eurovision bubble?
Just enjoying the whole nonsense of Russia and Ukraine and not knowing if anything's going to happen at all or what's going to happen. It's for a political observer. It's great fun. For everyone else, it's probably a nightmare, but it's excellent.
Anyway, right, let's get started. So just to recap, we will be discussing semi-final 1. It's what songs stand out, what songs we think could be contenders, and the songs we think are at risk. The running order is as follows. First up, we have Sweden's Robin Bengtsson with I Can't Go On. Then we have Georgia's Tamara with Keep the Faith. Clearly, Krista Bjorkman didn't have any faith. Next, Australia. X Factor winner Asaya Firebrace with Don't Come Easy. In fourth, Lindita for Albania with World. Fifth, we have Belgium's Golden Girl, Blanche, with City Lights. Next, Montenegro's Slavko Wants to Fill Your Space. Finland are in seventh with Blackbird by Norma John. Azerbaijan has Melly Skeletons in their closet. Dihaj performs in eighth. Ending the first half, we have Portugal's Salvador with Amor Pelos Dios. 10th, and starting the second half, Greece's Demi sings This Is Love. Poland next with Flashlight. In 12th, Sunstroke Project sing Hey Mama for Moldova. 13th, it's Iceland, Svala with Paper. Next, it's the Czech Republic's Marta, thinks it's her turn. Don't build up your hopes, love. Cyprus is in 15th, and Hovig will perform the Thomas Gerson penned Gravity. In 16th, Armenia's Artsvik performs the distinctive Fly With Me. 17th, we have Omar from Slovenia with On My Way. That'll be back to the airport on the 10th of May, I think. And last up, Latvia's Triana Park end the semi-final with Line. So starting with Ewan, who do you think the key players are in this semi?
I think the most interesting to watch out of all of that, if you're looking for the interesting package, is Finland, strangely enough. You look at that top half, there's not a, Sweden's your guaranteed qualifier from there. You have to really this year amazingly consider Portugal to be strong. Once you pop out Azerbaijan as well, just on historical, although it is a bit on the bubble. Australia, again, you have to do that. So we've probably got 3, only maybe 4. So I do wonder if Finland can actually push Azerbaijan down a little bit. It's very stylic. We're talking a lot of Norse mythology in there to help with the Scandi vote. It's got good jury appeal. It's touch and go with the televotes, but it performed really well out of UMK. And Finland qualifying, I think, is one of the, I think you guys call it the tip, the sort of outside bet. That's where I'm looking first of all in the top half of that semi-final.
I would tend to go with that. I've kind of said in my various reviews that if this was the middle of the 1990s, they'd be top 5 in the betting, and they're not. I'm not sure it's current enough to really get near the front end. I think it's going to be very middle of the road with the juries and the televoters. But in terms of what it's competing with in this semi, there's a lot of ballads after the same sorts of votes. Finland aren't really known for their televote, are they? I
think the question also, it comes also down to Australia. We've never really seen an Australian song under pressure. Guy Sebastian went straight through to the grand final. Damien ended up with a wonderful package on top of a so-so song. But with the best of intention, Isaiah is not a Damien. And we've not seen we've not seen how the Australian vote stands up when the song's not as good. So even though I think a lot of people are going to have Australia as the definite qualifier to get your solid 4 from the top, I question that.
Yeah. I've had similar worries, but I think those worries sort of appeared last year as well when we were discussing, our Australia in with a shout of winning, and then they mixed up the vocals a little bit for the live version, and all of a sudden everything changed.
Yeah, I mean, Australia is coming through with strong staging. There are some countries where we assume the staging will be good, and there are some where we assume the staging will be very, very bad. And the current thinking is they're one of these countries that always turns up with good staging, but this is only the third time they've turned up.
For me, Australia showing their studying Eurovision history perfectly, that a new country has 2 great strong songs and then bombs with the third. I could see this very easily not making it, and not making it by some distance.
Yeah, it's a very good point, actually, very valid. And I've published my traffic light system on ESCtips today, and I never get them all right at this point. I don't think anyone does. But anyway, Roy, I know you like Portugal, so tell us why Portugal could do better than the market suggests at the moment, and maybe who's the threat to Portugal as well.
The thing with Portugal is it's not like anything else. It's not like anything else we've had for a long time. When we were watching it on the night of the endless first Portuguese semi-final, Mrs. Roy was sat watching it with us, and she's a cynical old goth. She never gets teary about anything. And I turned to her halfway through, and she was red of eye, jaw dropped, unable to speak. And I've never seen that effect on her about anything before, let alone some funny little song in a song contest. People are saying, he's got to stop the twitching, or he's got to wear some better clothes. But I think that's part of his charm. And people who are outside of the Eurovision bubble are just going to lock into it. I think he's got that kind of that soft lilting La La Land kind of slightly jazzy, slightly kind of swing kind of thing about him. Serious music fans are going to like the musicality of the song and the delivery. And he's just so bloody adorable. He makes me want to pinch his cheeks and give him a lick wash.
I think the tics definitely work. I'm not sure about the ill-fitting clothes. I think that was more medical. I think he'll look a bit smarter for Eurovision. But yeah, the tics can stay for me.
Well, it's part of him feeling his thing. That's people
definitely
saying.
Yeah.
I love people saying, "Has he got a mental illness? Is this part of his illness?" It's like, well, I go and see a lot of bands. People put their all into stuff. He's an artist interpreting a song here. He's not a stock backing singer reciting the lines that they've never spoken in their own language before. He's actually feeling that song, and I think that's going to come across on the telly.
David Gray used to have those tics, didn't he?
Well, I mean, you've never seen me on stage, have you? We've all got us proper showbiz stars.
I think the curious thing that you have with Portugal is if you go back and look at that national final performance, he lost both in-ear monitors just as it started off. So he was relying on the foot monitors, and it didn't faze him at all. And he also had the presence of mind about a minute through when he knew he had a 10-second gap in the song to come out of character, lift up and listen to the ear monitors again, and then go, nope, they're still not working, throw a look at the soundboard, drop them, and get back into character. We're going to talk a fair bit about nerves and attitudes tonight and with some of these songs. And it is, we always say it's live, it's 3 minutes down the camera to across Europe. You want somebody that can cope with anything that can be thrown at them. And Salvador is one of the few artists this year that I've seen that can cope with the huge amount of pressure and events that can happen in live television events, dear boy, live television events. So I think mentally he's one of the strongest contestants that we actually have in the entire package. I'd also want to draw back people's attention to Junior Eurovision 2016. We had a similar song here from Georgia called Mizeo. Now, it ran last in the grand final, and before it had 16 songs of every single genre you could possibly think of, from hoverboards and skateboards and Irish jig dancing and whatever Macedonia was sending, so some things never change. And then she comes up and she does this sort of late 1950s Guys and Doys style musical number, and it worked perfectly in the running order. It came at the end. You had all of these musical variety numbers, and then somebody just came up and sung an absolute belter of a song in a very classic style. Portugal's programmed as late as it can be in semi-final one. It's got a great run of songs that are coming up to it that is going to, build and build and build to this wonderful musical moment. It's going to be one of the most beautiful moments of TV entertainment, let alone competitive singing that we've got. Assuming Portugal gets through to the final, I would be very, very tempted if it drew second half to put it on last, similar to Il Volo. But if it goes on last, at that point, I would assume that it is in with a shout of victory just because of the styling and the programme. It's Val Parnell's, forget about Christian Bjorkman doing a running order. This is a Val Parnell running order. You put Portugal last.
I hope it wins for a number of reasons as well. It's one, Portugal. I mean, who wouldn't want Portugal to win, whatever you think of the song? And
I think Italy wouldn't want Portugal to win, Roy.
Yeah. But also, I've got it at 66-1 on the nose. So this will pay for my trip and a few more.
This is the battle of the bets, isn't it? You're 26-1 and you're 66-1.
I just saw something in it the moment he stood on stage. I just thought, I'm famous for not betting on my instincts and then betting on complete donkeys when I do. So hopefully, I've finally bet on my instincts. He's going to come through. I can see him getting the best Portuguese entry result ever, no matter what happens.
I can see him doing very, very well on the jury score just in the semi-final.
But then it's down to whether the nans and mums at home are going to love him, which I think they could do.
Yeah. Another one that we haven't mentioned that could potentially compete at the sharp end, in fact, another two, that's Armenia. I think Armenia, from a visual aspect, should do very well from their side of the world as well. And then Greece has sort of gone under the radar. Very cheap, tacky pop, but visually it's going to be another winner from Fokas, surely. So, and that particular song, okay, you could only choose Demi in that national final, but that particular song romped the televote, so it's clearly one for the Greek diaspora. What do you guys think?
I think it's like I say, it's under the radar. I think that's what people. I think that and Montenegro are kind of what your rank and file Saturday night Eurovision watcher watch Eurovision for. A good bouncy happy pop song.
Yep.
I think of the two, that's probably got a bit more class. Class is a very relative term, but it's enjoyable. She's likeable. She's got a nice face, which often does well in the with the Nan vote. I think that could be, and there's obviously Greece have got the history of.
Did you say Nan vote or man vote about the nice face?
Nan votes.
Okay.
Nan vote and man vote. I think it's going to be.
We don't discriminate here, Gavin. Nans and mans can all like the Greek act. Demi's, that's fine.
Yes. Yes.
That's the best he could say about it.
Yeah.
You want me to mention Armenia here because you did.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Let's talk about Armenia.
Armenia is a really curious one as well because it's not been making any of the running in the press or the PR or any of the fan communities. But Armenia have this ability to put on a really good stage show. And the same way that we're talking about Australia has that reputation of putting on really good visuals and bringing it all together. They've got a really experienced head of delegation in terms both of production and in terms of making sure that all the vote and all the headlines arrive at the same point on that. I don't see this performing as well on the Saturday night. I just think the rhythm is the tempo is just a little bit too slow. It doesn't appeal that much west of the Danube. It's a lovely minor chorded folk tinge number. It's going to do gangbusters down the east of the Danube. But in terms of getting out the semi-final, it's really high up, and it would not surprise me if that won the semi-final.
Sorry, you say west of the Danube. Look down that list. There's not a lot of countries in this semi that are west of the Danube.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that it's. I think it will struggle on Saturday, but it's in with a good shot of winning the semi-final.
Yeah.
In which case, then, if we're talking about a producer-decided running order, by winning the semi-final, it pretty much gets the sweet spots in the final.
Yep. This is assuming that the people who are doing that running order see the actual votes.
I think they know exactly where to put the songs. They get the results and they put the songs to play to their strengths.
Oh, come on, let's start a good conspiracy theory. Yes, they do see it. They see it immediately.
Yeah, of course they do. They know exactly what they're doing. Anyway, moving on. Let's just talk about a few of the songs that we think could be surprise non-qualifiers or ones that we don't think are going to do as well as what they should. Roy, let's start with you now.
I'm thinking. I mean, everyone's thinking Sweden are bang on certain, but I think that may struggle. I know it's got the opening slot, and you've got that instant scene. People will remember the stage show, but he's not very likable, and the song's not greatly memorable. There's no real big hook, apart from his kind of like soulless, sleazy face. So I'm not sure if that qualifies. It's going to be 7, 8, 9, I think. Because look again. Look who's in this semi. There's
Demi.
not many friends of Sweden in that semi-final.
Yeah, in terms of upbeat, there's lots of competition, actually. You've got the guys, the Moldovan guys, Sunstroke Project. They're going to get a lot of fun votes. And then you've got Greece, but soulless and sleazy are two words I've used before. He's not comfortable with the song. It's a good song, and I think the juries will recognise it, but I don't think the televoters will be picking up on it, even though it does have a strong visual identity.
And he is going to forget not to say the bad word at least once, I bet you.
Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Well, didn't Krista manage that with Marry Me? It was just nicely timed. No, I said it's for you, it's not what you think I'm singing. Yeah, love. Yeah, carry on. Sweden is in a tricky situation, but I think you do remember we've got Italy, Spain, and the United Kingdom in here as well. So I think that will gather enough. And of course, by putting itself right at the top of the order, there's an argument for the creative producer to say this now deserves a later spot, no matter what it gets when it sneaks out that semi-final.
Yeah,
so I think there's a bit of tactics there as well.
That may actually confuse the market. So let's say he gets a second half draw, but let's say, as predicted, he's not going to do as well in the semi-final. Let's say he gets 4th to 6th. All of a sudden he gets a plummish draw, but instead of being the Russia of last year, he's more like the Spain of last year. He gets a latest draw, fools the market, thinks he's going to do well. Actually, he doesn't.
I think for me, out of this, I think the one that is going to be the unfortunate one, I think, is Belgium. The City Lights is a really good modern song. It's got this nice little bit of dark tinge. It's an edge to it. Only in Scotland, when you see City Lights, are you expect to see Gerard Kelly come out on stage with a beaten up typewriter trying to write a novel. Everybody else in Europe is just going to go, that's not bad. The problem here is Blanche herself. I think she's too young for the contest. When she was at the London Eurovision party, incredible levels of stage fright, huge amounts of nerves backstage, both before and after. Similar story at the Israeli preview party, and she had to withdraw from Amsterdam. So she's had 3 goals to go up and do this live, and each one of them will have damaged her confidence in a different way. And also her management's not on the ball as well. She's got an album coming out, but it's not coming out till summer 2018. So they're not thinking career. They're not thinking about how to place her. You know, there's a mental game at Eurovision as well. You've got to have that strength for 2 weeks. Even an experienced artist such as Trinche from a couple of years ago in 2015, if you go off the boil and your head loses it, you're out the contest. I would not be putting any money on Belgium at the moment because I don't think that she's got the mental fortitude to get through the semi-final.
No, it's exactly the argument I've been making as well. Sorry, Roy, carry on.
I wouldn't put money on it, but at the same time, we're only judging her on being on stage. I can remember back in 2000 in the hall in Stockholm when Alsu was on. Everyone in the hall was amazed how she managed to come second. There's no personality in the crowd. No, as soon as we saw the camera design, she was just looking right down the camera and exuding to you. So I think with a decent camera design, being aware of aloofness, that could actually work in her favour.
I think that's been the difficulty at the moment, though, hasn't it? Because if you look at the London performance in particular, and somewhat in Tel Aviv, when she was either looking at the audience or the camera, she almost looked like Anna Bergendahl, Sweden. She looked as if she wanted to vomit down the camera. I can just imagine getting to Kiev, first rehearsals, and that look of absolute terror on her face coming down the cameras. And again for the jury rehearsal, just imagine if she's that fearful of a small audience of a couple of thousand, what she's going to be like when she gets to jury rehearsal, knowing that she has to get it spot on. And actually the vocals she hasn't got spot on yet.
Really? Yeah, I think they've just got to make an artful camera design around her.
Do you know what? It's the perfect sort of song to stage, and I think they will stage it really, really well. But I just think she's the weak link, and it's, you know, that's not having a go at her. I just don't think she's ready. I don't think she's up for this sort of big stage. If you look at the past videos, yes, she's been on a reality TV show,
Yeah, where she scraped through the first round and was eliminated in week 2.
Exactly,
so
yes.
She didn't do brilliantly there either.
But you look at where most of her videos are coming from. It's like in a little bar scene, and that's probably her. That's probably her medium. That's probably perfect for her. But I'm sorry, but 200 million audience worldwide probably isn't.
It's the game show, and I don't think she can play the game. I think she's already lost the game, irrespective of the camera angles. I think once you're off the boil and you've not got your confidence, it took Kirsty McCall years to get back, and she only managed that with Sean McGowan helping her on a couple of 100,000 points from the Pogues. She's got 3 weeks, and the Belgians.
Yeah, and it's not a good running order slot, actually, considering what you've got going after it.
Yeah.
Especially when Ewan mentions Finland, very traditional in its way, but it's very haunting. But then moving slightly later in the show, you've got Iceland now. Iceland, okay, their staging hasn't been so good, very aggressive, but she's off in LA now trying to design something. Now I guess it's going to be very 80s and electric. But if she pulls a package together, that's going to take some of Belgium's vote as well.
I'm not seeing Iceland at all, though. I mean, I admire Svala's work. I like pretty much anything else she's ever done.
Yeah, me
but
too.
This just seems a bit sparse and the chorus is a bit too formula. And I'm really not digging the scraped back hair and rolled up sleeves bit.
No.
Just looks like your nan at an 80s wedding.
Yeah.
Your nan's got a lot to blame for.
Man, I've got to get off this nan tip.
So here's the thing. I think that Iceland actually has a really good chance if they play their cards right, because they're on right after Moldova. We should be able to assume that Moldova is going to go for the high energy performance. We're going to see the bridesmaids come in again. It's going to be very bright. It's going to be very, very visual.
It's going to be perfect for the UK audience.
Oh yeah, and if I was Svala in the Icelandic delegation, I would be trying to mimic that as much as possible, but do it very slightly better. I disagree with the sawtooth method of programming, because most people, when they're comparing things, compare like with like. So what Iceland, in my opinion, should be doing here is making sure that they are like Hey Mama and the Sunstroke Project, but better. Because they can draw a direct comparison with the staging, and make sure, if they make sure they win that, the song has a little bit more depth and complexity that I think will bring the jury votes on board. So I think that they will get more jury than Moldova, which is already sort of that 8th to 12th bubble zone anyway. Put then the visuals so that the televote goes, that's great, then that's even greater, I'm voting for that one. It gives them a little bit more visual hook when it comes to the recap of the postcard. It gets them that extra bit of televote push. They've pretty much got the jury vote and the technicality to get those mid-range votes. But I don't know if Svalba's going to be able to be restrained enough for everybody to think that it's comfortably better, as opposed to just looking a little bit too much out there. This is one where the first look at the rehearsal, if it looks anything like Moldova, put the money on. If it looks completely different to Moldova, take the money out.
Yeah.
I think with Moldova, the money there is them getting to the final, because that's probably their ambition, so they can have another YouTube meme they can put on their own
You can
this
spot
time
4 seconds that they're ready to clip out there.
Yeah, that's what they're looking at. There's anything to get to the final, then we've made our pence elsewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, they can join the Eurovision tours again. So, chaps, who's potentially missing out then? Other than Belgium, and who's actually going to be missing out? Who are we not going to be bothering with?
We got to look at like perpetual non-qualifiers like Georgia as almost like a bottom 3. I think there.
Yeah, I think Georgia are gone. Maybe Albania, Montenegro for sure.
I'm not seeing it. Look where Montenegro is. That's plumb in the middle of a whole lot of slow.
Yeah.
That's going to be like a beacon of enjoyment in the middle of all that slow, and the voters are going to remember that. It's cheesy ass cack, but it's good fun cheesy ass cack. So I'm not altogether sure we're going to lose him.
The thing though is, if he's in that top half, I don't see 5 qualifying from the top half of the semi-final. Traditionally, it's usually been a 4 to 6 or a 3 to 7. Once you put through Sweden, once you put through Azerbaijan, once you put through Australia, once you put through Portugal, there's 4. So that fifth one's got to be incredibly strong. And Montenegro, with the best will in the world, doesn't start with a huge amount of diaspora in this round. It's not got immediate appeal outside of the core audience. And that core audience, unfortunately, is all going to be in Kiev as opposed to being there. Yeah, you've got the UK that's voting in this one, but it means you're going for 5 from the top. And I feel like Brucey now. You see the top for the 5 from the top. No, it's not happening.
This could be the year to test the top half, bottom half theory, though. I think it's very front loaded.
Every year is the year to test, and every year fails.
Yeah, I've got 5 qualifiers from the back end if I really push it, and Greece, Moldova, Cyprus, Armenia, and then you just got to find, you've got potentially the pimp slot, which is Latvia, if they lessen on the aggression a little bit.
Latvia's a strange case. I think that's the kind of thing that if we were down some dodgy squat warehouse on a Saturday night at 4 a.m. on the disco polos, we'd love that. But in context here, I'm not sure it's going to work.
I mean, Latvia did 3 songs at the London Eurovision party, and by the third song, which is a punk standards of, I think it was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, everything, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, everything. So, sort of stuff you would sing, Roy. She had the whole of the crowd behind her and on top with her and singing along. Wonderful live performer here. We can't discount that experience of performing in a live audience and bringing them in, even though it's down the camera lens.
They play a lot of big festivals around the Baltics, so they're used to a big crowd, so that'll be in their favour.
And I suppose getting the pimp slop shows that Christer Bjorkman has a bit of faith. He would obviously have seen the kind of staging cues. He's probably put them there for a reason. Yeah. Do I think they're going to be, last year that both pimp slops got top 3. I don't think they're going to be top 3. I think they're going to be scraping in if they do. If it's not Latvia, then you're probably looking more towards Poland's diaspora turning up and pushing that one through, even though it's an awful, awful song.
It's the worst lyric in the whole contest. I just want to punch myself in the face when she sings them words.
Now, that goes to Malta, Roy. I mean, I know you've got problems with the lyrics there, and she's got all the rhymes that you absolutely love lined up there. But
in one line.
But if there's a vacancy in my heart for Malta, I mean, it is the most cloying, drop-dead, China-infused sentiment you've ever heard this side of Harry Styles trying to work out if he knows who Deep Pink Floyd are on Wikipedia or not, and can't even get the band name right.
Hey, I like 80s movie songs, sorry, but and that fits the bill, Malta. I'm okay with Malta. I don't think it qualifies, but I'm okay with it.
Do you know the 2 songs that none of us have mentioned yet? The Czech Republic and Slovenia.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that tells the story itself.
I mean, the Slovenia is in the typical Scandi death slot. The Scandinavians love putting on the big, exciting number last. I think we did an interview in ESC Insight with Christy Brockman, how he made up the Melody Festival and running order. It was always open with something fast, close with something fast, and sawtooth in between through. So Latvia's the fast closer. It's either Latvia or Cyprus going out of that one, and Cyprus just doesn't have the pace. Scandis, to a certain extent more Denmark than Sweden, love to put the favourite song on third last in a block, to go favourite, dead, second favourite, in a sort of, well, we've given the second favourite a bit more of an advantage, we've put a space in between them. So to me, what that running order suggests is that Slovenia is absolutely dead in the eyes of the production team. Armenia is the top song of the semi-final bottom half, and Latvia is in second place. It also means that if you flip to the top, it means that they've got, you've got that Finland, Azerbaijan, Portugal. I think they've changed the rules slightly there. As I said, Portugal needs that long run-in of numbers, but Finland and Portugal are at the top in terms of appreciation, and Azerbaijan is well down.
Azerbaijan's a tricky one, because there's a lot of songs that are a bit like London Grammar in the whole contest this year, and this one's probably most a bit like London Grammar. But is she going to be too cool and glacial and a bit disaffected to actually attract anyone?
She's very austere, isn't she? Very hard-faced.
I like that in her, but will people?
No. Trouble is, it's a televoters game, isn't it? And you're not going to appeal to those.
It's like everybody loving Heroes and then suddenly realizing that Charlotte Pirelli looks like Stretch Armstrong, or in this year's lexicon, Robin Bankson's mum.
I wrote today, actually, is that if she looked like she did in the video with the slicked back purplish hair, she'd be fine. But this kind of Star Trek extra look isn't so good.
I like the attack, Bob. I think that's quite a good look, but that's just me.
Roy, that's because you like the fembots out of every single Dean Martin spy novel from the 60s.
Yeah, you know that, yeah.
Anyway, I think we've pretty much discussed this semi-final. So one of the other bits of homework I got you to do was to pick, now considering outside of this semi, so you're freed from the reins of this semi. Who's your winner, chaps? Or actually, pick two potential winners each. Roy, I think we already know yours.
It's going to be Portugal, but it's also going to be Italy, which I think is going to be a lot of people's potential winners.
Yeah,
that's the song with most charm. That's all down to whether the juries don't go, "Oh, monkey," and they just realise it's a well-written song with great lyrics and a fantastic performance. It could fall at the last hurdle, but what's going to beat it?
if it's a competition for charisma, he wins it hands down. Ewan?
I called Italy as the winners back on February the 4th, halfway through the telling of the San Remo first rehearsal. To give some background, I was actually at San Remo this year. Roy should have been there. Damn you and getting work and paid employment. But none of the press, anybody gets to hear the songs until the rehearsal on the Monday. And even then, we're banned from taking in electronics. You have to use an old-fashioned paper and pencil. And for all, just as an aside, for all those people worrying about speed at Italy, the San Remo rehearsal pace is you get to do one song run through, and then 60 seconds later, the next act is on stage. It literally goes song, 60 seconds, song, 60 seconds, song, 60 seconds. So all those people looking back at Toto's contest, I've seen the Italians at full speed. They can manage it. Even with Carlo doing his voiceovers and going, oh, look, the pretty ladies. And halfway through Occidentali's Karma, I leaned over to the Italian team that I was with and said, that's the one that wins Eurovision if it can get out of San Remo. And two things happened at that point. The first one was I didn't think it would get out of San Remo, if I'm perfectly honest. I thought that Manoia was going to win and somebody like Irma Metal was going to come in second and take the place. As we know, that didn't happen. And the second thing is the gorilla walked out. And at that point I went, yeah, you've got the televote sewn up, because when people get to the recap, in the same way they went, that's it, the one with the beard, the one with the wee stick man, it's going to be the one with the gorilla. I liked that. I'm voting for that. So my first choice for the winner is Italy. My second choice for the winner is Italy, because much as I'd love there to be another story, I cannot see past Italy. It's not as strong as Fairy Tale, but we're looking at a sort of only teared up Euphoria situation. The only way that I think Italy is beatable is this, and that's if Salvador for Portugal walks out on the first tech rehearsal, the 40-minute one, does one run through of his song, and then his sister takes over and does the rest of the camera angles, and we never see Salvador again until the jury final, for the jury semi-final, and he just goes down, because the gossip and the press going, what's wrong with him, what's happening, and everybody trying to build a combative story of two potential songs, will see that, latch onto it, and give Portugal the classic X Factor sob story of it's his live stream, he's doing it for Portugal, and everything else that has built up behind him that has been denied by the delegation, and quite rightly, isn't something that I want to repeat here. But there is a way for Portugal to get momentum if they wanted to play the game that way. I think that's the only way Italy can be challenged.
I don't think they will, though, will they?
No, I think Portugal will play it completely straight back, walk away with second place and be very happy.
Oh, they'll be ridiculously happy with second place. That'll be public holiday for 3 months if they get second place.
And who'd have thought that after last year? I remember when the Betfair market opened, Sweden and Russia number one. Old Europe, nowhere to be seen.
I still think any country could win this with the right song. Has been proven in the last 15 years. Look at when you Greece out of nowhere, you Turkey out of nowhere, Austria, Germany even. Nobody's ever completely out of this. I think it's unwinnable for anyone anymore.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
it's not an unwinnable contest, but you still need to have dedication and focus, and you need to not make any mistakes.
That's what
there are quite a few countries that have already made mistakes this year. I mean, let's look at Ireland. There's been quite a few mistakes there. San Marino, going back to Valentina, strictly it's not a mistake, but it's just like, if you're going to go back to Valentina, the jazz singer, give her a jazz number.
Well, find someone do that, because that's what she's best at. You see her at the parties. She's amazing singing jazz. It's jazz, fair enough, but she's good at it.
Okay, well, let's hope we all go to the San Marino party this year.
Or lots of cheese. Plenty of cheese.
Well, I remember in Austria we all had a pizza party, didn't we?
Well, that's right, yeah.
That was a night. That was a night to remember. Anyway, that's it. We're going to be back next week with the second semi-final with 2 other guests. So all I need to do is thank our guests. Thank you, Ewan.
Thank you very much, Gavin. Look forward to seeing you in the BA Lounge on the flight out to Kiev. I believe we're flight buddies.
We're on the same flight, yes.
Sorry.
Morning champagne, I think.
Definitely, yes.
And thank you, Roy.
You won't see me on the plane. I'm on Donkey Airlines again.
Are you flying from Gatwick?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you say Donkey Airlines, you mean United, don't you?
No. Just
Is it Ukrainian Airways or something?
Yes.
Like that? Yeah. Do you know what? BA and Ukrainian, they were roughly the same price.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, Ukraine's probably got better champagne as well.
I like adventure.
Anyway, that's it, folks. We'll be back next week. Goodbye.
ESCtips.com will return with another show soon. In the meantime, show us some love by following us and sharing this podcast with your Facebook and Twitter friends.